Testing. 1, 2, 3. This is archive number 089. The following recording is for my private collection, a confidential inquiry into the nature of control, the architecture of influence, and the very ownership of your mind. The question is simple. Who truly controls your thoughts? Is it you, or is it a system? A network of unseen forces that shapes your reality from the shadows. Today we explore that enigma. Prepare to question everything. At birth, you are told you are an individual, unique, sovereign, and free. But what if that is nothing more than a comforting lie? From your first breath, you are immersed in a system of conditioning. Every lesson, every rule, every expectation is designed not to liberate your mind, but to shape it. Consider your beliefs. The values you hold dear. Are they the product of your own reflection? Or have they been implanted through years of education, media, and societal norms? The very notion of free will is a ruse, a masterful illusion. You believe that your decisions are yours alone, yet countless forces conspire to guide you toward predetermined outcomes. Let us examine a case study. Kira presented himself as the arbiter of justice, a divine force beyond the limitations of man. His actions were not the result of spontaneous will, but were the culmination of carefully orchestrated narratives. His followers did not choose him out of independent thought. They were seduced by the certainty and order his vision promised. In Kira's rise, you see the epitome of control, the ability to mold collective belief without a single overt command. Autonomy, as you know it, is a mirage, a fabricated sense of freedom. The true architecture of control is subtle, and once you begin to perceive the hidden design, you may never see your thoughts the same way again. For now, remain vigilant as we peel back the layers of your conditioned existence. Now, let us delve into the infrastructure of your mind, the systems that impose beliefs upon you. From the moment you enter this world, institutions take charge of your thought. Schools, media outlets, religious doctrines, and even the laws of your nation. All are instruments of control. These systems do not simply educate or inform, they condition. They present you with a curated reality, a version of truth that serves the interests of those in power. Think of your school days. The lessons were not merely academic, but were designed to foster obedience. You learned to accept authority, to trust the written word, and to suppress dissent. The media plays a similar role. Every headline, every news report is a calculated move on a grand chessboard. Information is not provided to enlighten but to channel your focus, to limit the spectrum of your thoughts. When you watch the news, do you question the narrative, or do you accept it as an absolute? Rarely do you see beyond the surface. And then there is the digital age, algorithms that predict your behavior, advertisements that echo your desires, and social media that reinforces your beliefs. In this network, your mind becomes the product. The architecture of influence is so all-encompassing that even your most private thoughts are shaped by external forces. Recall Kira's methodology. He did not merely kill, he instilled a doctrine. His control was not exerted by force but by persuasion. He crafted a narrative so compelling that it eclipsed traditional authority. The public, hungry for certainty, latched onto his vision, and in doing so, surrendered their autonomy. I ask you, when was the last time you questioned a belief that felt innate? When did you last scrutinize a value that you assumed was inherently yours? The answer is likely never. To liberate yourself, you must first recognize that your mind is not entirely your own. It is the product of an elaborate, meticulously maintained system. Observe the patterns, the repetition, the normalization of ideas. It is here, in the mundane and the routine, that the greatest control is exercised. Control, in its most refined form, is an art, a science of the mind. The mechanisms that govern your thoughts are not the product of a single force but a confluence of biology, psychology, and technology. Your brain is a labyrinth of neurons, firing in patterns that on the surface seem uniquely yours. Yet, these patterns are subject to external manipulation. Advertising, propaganda, and even the subtle cues of everyday interaction are all designed to direct your neural pathways. Consider the power of suggestion. A single phrase repeated enough times can become a command implanted in your subconscious. In experiments of obedience, individuals have been induced to perform actions they would have otherwise deemed unthinkable. This is not a failure of the human spirit, it is evidence of the remarkable susceptibility of the human mind. Now, looked to Kira once more. Kira's influence was a masterclass in psychological manipulation. He understood that fear, when artfully deployed, could override reason. He knew that when individuals are gripped by terror, their capacity for independent thought diminishes. And so, he engineered a system where fear and certainty intertwined, making the illusion of choice not only acceptable but desirable. This is the essence of modern control. In the digital realm, algorithms analyze your every move. They predict your desires, your fears, and your reactions. They curate the information you receive, narrowing your world until it aligns with a singular manufactured vision. In this way, your mind becomes a battlefield, a place where unseen forces wage war over your very thoughts. Yet, there is beauty in understanding this machinery. Once you recognize the levers and pulleys that govern your perceptions, you gain the power to question, to dismantle, and ultimately, to reclaim your mind. In the coming moments, I will detail the tools by which these mechanisms operate. Neuroplasticity. The brain's ability to reorganize itself is a double-edged sword. While it allows for learning and adaptation, it also permits external influences to reshape your very identity. Social conditioning. The psychological pressure exerted by peer groups, cultural norms, and media conglomerates. It is the silent force that molds your behavior. Technological persuasion. The subtle art of algorithmic influence. How data and analytics drive decisions, often without your conscious awareness. Each of these elements contributes to a grand system, a system that is as elegant as it is oppressive. And while it may seem all-encompassing, know this: every system has its vulnerabilities. To truly understand control, you must begin to see beyond the surface. You must question not only what you believe but why you believe it. In doing so, you may discover that the keys to your own freedom lie within the labyrinth of your mind. In the final analysis, control is not an immutable fate. It is a condition that can be challenged, deconstructed, and ultimately transcended. The path to liberation begins with awareness and culminates in action. True freedom is not the absence of influence but the ability to question, to resist, and to redefine the narrative of your own existence. If you seek to reclaim ownership of your mind, you must start by dismantling the constructs that bind you. You must question every input, scrutinize the sources of your beliefs and the motives behind them. Embrace uncertainty. Recognize that the comfort of familiar narratives is a tool of control. Cultivate independent thought. Seek out perspectives that challenge the status quo and broaden your understanding. Build intellectual resilience. Train your mind to think critically, to filter out the noise, and to focus on what is truly relevant. Kira, in his arrogance, believed that imposing his will through fear and certainty was the pinnacle of control. Yet, his downfall lay in his inability to accept the inherent chaos of free thought. He sought to command absolute order in a world that thrives on unpredictability. His legacy, while formidable, is a cautionary tale, a reminder that true control is an illusion when it is built on repression rather than empowerment. The future of thought depends on your willingness to challenge these systems. The grand chessboard of life is not static. It is a dynamic field, where the rules can be rewritten by those bold enough to question them. Every act of defiance, every moment of introspection, adds a new dimension to the board. At this moment, as you listen to these words, consider your role. Are you content to remain a pawn, passively accepting the narrative handed to you? Or will you dare to become a player, to strategize, to influence, and ultimately, to reclaim your autonomy? The choice is yours. The game is eternal, but your moves can shape the course of history. The path to liberation is arduous and fraught with uncertainty, yet, it is the only path that leads to true freedom. The freedom to own your mind and by extension your destiny. I leave you with this final thought. In a world of manufactured consensus and pervasive control, the greatest act of rebellion is the pursuit of truth. Never cease to question, never cease to seek, and above all never allow your mind to be owned by another. This is L, signing off from Archive #089. May you find the courage to challenge the unseen forces and forge your own path.